Hello and welcome back everyone. Today we're going to be walking through this drawing process for this kind of multiply drawing style like these pieces that I've made previously, and I've made another one and I recorded the process and I'm going to just like walk you through it and talk about me drawing it today. And as you can see, I started trying out this little like PNG tuber for this and I think she's really cute. I love her in the corner there. So yeah. For this, I am using some pencil brushes, my own pencil brushes called Yummy Pencils, but I have actually changed some settings to be, so the blending mode for the actual brush is at least sometimes multiply as well as has some color variation. You can see that I go in here now and I changed the hue, saturation and lightness and darkness to be like just a few percent to get that good color variation for each line to make the drawing feel more alive. And then I just start drawing flowers. I set each layer to multiply, and sometimes I use like here the multiply version of this brush that I've made. It's not in the brush pack, the multiply version, but it's quite easy to just go into the rendering settings and change the blending mode to multiply if you want that. Yeah, so I just like try to do some scribbles, and it's always so funny when you want to do these like loose pieces, because doing the perfect like scribble is sometimes so hard and you have to like redo it so many times to get it to look the way you want it to, even though you're just trying to be loose and like have fun. And then I keep adding more flowers, and I'm using a color palette I actually generated in Procreate from a previous drawing, which is really fun and a fun way to like get a similar piece to something you've made before. And I'm just keeping adding some flowers in some pinks and blues and oranges and stuff like that. And yeah, basically these pieces are a really good practice for me to be less precious about my art, because I try to just be loose and playful with my art all the time, but sometimes it's really easy to get stuck in that perfectionism and just wanting your art to be like exactly how you intended it to be. But I try to more with these go with the flow and just enjoy the process and just have fun. And I think these turn out very playful as a result of that, which I think is a lot of fun. And as you can see, there is the first time I've really like overlapped the lines, and you can see the lines, the colors like overlay on top of each other and become darker. And that's thanks to the multiply layer blending mode in Procreate. It's available in Photoshop as well. The layer blending modes, they're really useful to use both for like texture overlays and for styles like this, and getting that kind of like viso look for your drawings with the like layering of your colors when they go on top of each other. It isn't as good if you want to, it isn't as good as actively bad if you want your upper or over the overlaying layers to like cover the layer below. Obviously, this makes them transparent, like some kind of transparent ink. But here I'm adding my favorite thing in all drawings, which is stars. I can't like finish a drawing without adding any stars. I just love them so much. Stars and sparkles are like a core part of my art personality and art style. Yeah. So are these little dots, by the way, or like little speckles and stuff. Like texture, I think, is a core part of my style, playfulness, and maybe sparkles. So here I tried to add in some more yellow in the drawing, but I didn't like the shade of yellow I ended up picking. So I went back to like a more orangey one. And it's also kind of unpredictable when you have the color variation on, because sometimes the shade it picks is just like so far from what I intended when I pick the color in the corner, which is like the purpose of that functionality, but sometimes it ends up being in a way that I don't like. And here I'm just like setting the layers to multiply, because I usually have like one layer that I duplicate that is already set to multiply when I do this, so I don't have to go into the layer settings for each new layer and set it to multiply. But sometimes I forget, and then I have to go into the layer settings anyway. So here I'm adding this like peachy tone to and here you can see the multiply of the brush in action, because it's like multiplying even though it's on the same layer, because I'm using the brush with multiply instead of just a layer set to multiply. I like that effect that I can get like different shades of color without having to lift or even lift a pen, or lift the pen I need to do because then it multiplies every time I lift the pen. But I don't have to change the color actively. I just get like these interesting variations without doing much. And here I'm actually, because I noticed I was zooming in and out so much, I wanted to try to add the reference window in Procreate, which is a feature they have where you can add either an image or like a preview of your drawing as a smaller window on the screen. So I added the small version of this drawing there for me to not zoom out like this as much, because I was worried it would be annoying to watch, but yeah, I don't know that it helped. But now you get to see the drawing twice at once, which is good, I guess. So I'm just like scribbling along. This is a very scribbly style, and that's why I like the pencil brush for this. It really ends up giving that extra texture to each line. And I also have some texture overlays on top of here from my first texture pack. I have my second texture pack in the works, and it has been in the works for ages, and I just can't get myself to finish it. Because it's a lot of like file prep towards the end that I don't really enjoy. But yeah, I want to get it out there because there are some textures in there that I use a lot, and I think they're really good, and they like add something that isn't in the first texture pack. Adding more sparkles and more purple. This is kind of a color palette that is unusual for me because it has way more like punchy pinks and blues. Blue is a color I rarely use otherwise, I think. I've started like the past year maybe using some blue sometimes, but most of the time it's my regular like orange, red, yellow, and green. But these, I like this like almost primary color palette for these. And it gives me really those like Riso vibes as well. And just adding little squiggles and stuffs and seeing what works and undoing if it doesn't work and just trying. That didn't look good, for example, so I undid it and added more squiggles instead. And now like going back to like the preciousness of art, I think that I'm not that perfectionistic when it comes to art. And I think that really like helps me with my, I don't know, like art development, because I just like move on to the next piece if I don't like one. It's not like 100% that every time I'm like, oh, this piece turned out like shit and I can just like move on. But most of the time it doesn't like bother me that much. And also in case like something changes and isn't the way I wanted it to be, it's like, yeah, okay, but it's like not the end of the world for me. And I've tried really hard to get to this place where I can like make stuff without getting too perfectionistic and getting stuck in that like mindset of it having to be good every single time. I know doodling in my sketchbook has been really helpful. It was actually my friend Emma who recommended me that I do make an ugly sketchbook, like intentionally an ugly sketchbook where I doodle stuff and I don't intend to show it to anyone. And that's how my sketchbooking started a few years ago. Like 2 years ago, I started using a sketchbook, and I bought this like really cheap notebook, and I just started doodling in it with a regular ballpoint pen. And I just drew the same thing over and over, and it was not unique. It was just flowers, and it was ugly at times when I tried to draw some new stuff. But it really helped me like let go of that mindset that it has to be perfect each time you try. And I think like I know so many artists who like shoot themselves in the foot by just like pressuring themselves to always be performing at top level, or like thinking that this piece is going to be my best piece ever, because like it's going to go up and down. It's not going to be a straight line up, like with learning to draw and getting better. And the bad pieces are often very, very useful in terms of learning new things and growing and like developing our artist selves. Yes, I'm just scribbling along here and trying to have fun and just like enjoy the scribbles and how they come to me and how they end up. I do undo often. And I think like digital work was a big part of me being more perfectionistic about my art before, because it's so easy to like fix your mistakes in digital art. And this past year where I've been doodling a lot more and drawing with my markers in my sketchbook have really like just helped me let go of so much of that, and it has made it so much easier for me to make art, and it has made it so much like more fun because I'm not putting that much pressure on myself. And I try to also like not put pressure on myself about what I post online, because I was so obsessed with my grid looking nice, with it being like visual consistency and not looking like two similar pieces next to each other, and having that like balance. When I looked at my Instagram, it was hindering my art growth so much, and it was just making me very unhappy. And I'm so glad that I'm kind of past that, but I still have to like fight for that to still be the case. Because sometimes I just need to like, this post doesn't feel like it fits with my feed. It doesn't feel like it's good enough, but I'm going to post it anyway because I had fun making it. Like, that's enough for you to post something. If you had fun making it and you want to post it, then I think you should post it. I'm so unhappy with the fact that I, for so many years, like kept myself from posting things that didn't go with the theme or whatever, or like the visual consistency, or that it just made me so unhappy as an artist. And I know I have many times talked about this online, that I like worry so much that my style or my art style isn't consistent enough. And it has oftentimes stopped me from trying new things and like exploring different styles and different expressions in art and drawing. But it all like ends up being so limiting. And I remember so clearly, like a few years ago, I did like a visualization exercise for visualizing your perfect life. And so many of the things that I wrote down for that were about feeling free in my art practice and my like life. And that kind of freedom doesn't come from like only, or the limitations don't only come from outside, or like a lot of them came from within. And a lot of it was like ideas of how I was expected to be and how I was supposed to be, and as an artist and as an online artist, and all these expectations from myself. No one else was telling me how to do things. I was just like, no, I can't do that because of some reason that I've made up in my mind. And it was just exhausting. And I will never want to go back to that. I want to make fun, playful stuff. I want to have fun with art. That's like my core priority with art, is having fun. So like if I end up limiting myself a lot and giving myself all these rules that make me unhappier and unhappier, then what's the point of making art? Like, I don't know. For me, there isn't that much value in this if it isn't fun. And I think that's something that's easy to forget, that we all did this from the first. Like when we were kids, we drew for fun all the time. Or I did, at least. And like then I turned like 12 and I was like, no, I'm not good enough for this. I need to make good art if I'm gonna draw. I'm not a skilled artist from the start, so I'm not gonna do this at all. And I stopped drawing until I kid you not, 27 years old. Maybe I wasn't 12, maybe I was 13, I don't know. But like, after all those years of drawing, I went to like art teacher groups after school, and I drew a lot, and I just loved it so much. My mom bought me so many art supplies, and she like encouraged me so much. So it wasn't at all like from anyone else. It was just like that self-doubt was so powerful that it made me just quit drawing. And that's so sad to me, because like, imagine all the fun I could have had between the ages of 12 and 27. That's like 15 years where I didn't draw. I did do a lot of photography in the meantime, but I had such fear of drawing for years, and I was so terrified that I wouldn't be good enough and that I would fail, and all of that. I just like, I don't know how I did it, to be honest, but I just ignored it in the end, and I drew anyway. Yeah. Okay. I'm going to stop talking about that now because I'm getting too excited. But I'm almost finished with this piece now, I think. And I'm just adding the final touches and doing final edits and stuff like that, where I add chromatic aberration, which is my favorite effect in Procreate. It's like a filter, and I always set the chromatic aberration layers to lighten and then clip them to the layer with the drawing, because otherwise when you merge it, you get like this weird shadow where the dark parts of the chromatic aberration layer is, where it's outside. It's okay. So here I'm just like doing final edits, which is also one of my favorite parts of drawing, where I just like tweak the colors, use curves, use hue saturation, change it up and make it look as fun as I want it to look. Yeah. Oh, and here I am like working on the textures as well, which is also something that's part of my final steps. I'm actually generating a color noise layer inside of Procreate for this. Part of them, the speckled grain, are from my texture pack, and I use them as well, but I also use the color noise because I wanted to add color noise. I didn't want it to just be like white grain. I wanted it to be like this. You can see it's like rainbow grain, and you can do that by pressing the little lightning icon to the right on the noise filter and selecting like multi, I think it says. And then I'm just like turning on and off the layers of textures and checking it at 100% zoom, which I can do through the quick menu in Procreate. It's a really good feature. I use it a lot to be able to like quickly open the quick menu and set it to actual size so I can see it at 100% zoom. I do that all the time in Photoshop, and I had to Google how to figure out how to do it in Procreate, but I have it on my quick menu all the time now because I use it so much to check that the textures look good at like 100% and stuff like that. And then I'm getting close to finishing this, I think. More edits, I guess. Changing the hue saturation and stuff, and changing my mind, and making it warmer with curves and making it more red, it seems. And yeah, curves is really a tool that I use so much. I really wish there were curve adjustment layers in Procreate, because I would use that so much, which means that you can put it like as a separate layer that you can edit after the fact, because in the way Procreate works now, it's like destructive curves, where you actually edit the layer that you're working on and you change it. Here I'm trying the halftone filter, but I don't think I ended up using it, but it's a cool way to add texture sometimes, but I think I prefer just the noise for this one. And here I'm trying it back and forth, as always. And changing up the textures as well. I'm really close to finishing this piece. And yeah, I think it turned out really cute, actually. And it's just so happy. And I love the stars' little faces and the colors and stuff like that. It was really fun to draw this. And then I am turning off the reference window. And I'm checking that everything looks nice. And then it is done. Thank you for watching.